Dan, I get the feeling we're going to get one of these stories every day for quite some time.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some sleepless nights ahead for Rishi Sunak because we seem to be having a fairly good week. He'd got this Brexit deal and he'd been able to kind of sell it as his success. It didn't look like this rebellion was going to grow, that's going to be absolutely massive. He was having a good week. Now all the headlines are all about what the government was doing during COVID again, which is exactly the sort of thing he wanted to move away from, make his own premiership about him and not about what was happening during the Boris Johnson years. And why I think he's going to really be wrestling with what's going to come is we've not yet had any leaks about Rishi Sunak. Now, this story could, as you say, run for days, and it will be when something happens to emerge about Rishi Sunak that I think Number 10 will really start to get nervous.
It's interesting because Rishi Sunak built his reputation off the back of this pandemic as the money man who gave people free lunches and free money. We might well say that we're sort of reaping some of the consequences of that profligacy now. But at the moment, Rishi Sunak has a pretty unblemished, at least in the media, record of his time in the pandemic. I wonder if that's about to change.
Yeah, I think it could change. I think even the bits which aren't about Rishi Sunak are going to have big impact. So we've seen today those messages about teachers between Gavin Williamson and Matt Hancock. It's not overly helpful when you're talking to teachers about avoiding strike action and about pay deals when this sort of messaging comes out. If this was the views of the government, I think you can find that the trade unions are going to be using this to their advantage in talks.
And it's fascinating to look at the interactions between these different individuals. I've been reading these messages with fascination and sometimes quite a lot of hilarity. I mean, these are group chats. They're speaking as if... I mean, I'm in a lot of WhatsApp group chats, but it's remarkable to think that the Prime Minister and the Chief Medical Officer and the Health Secretary are in group chats discussing the pandemic in a very similar way to the rest of us. Yeah,
I mean, you would have thought, these are the top of government and making such big impact decisions that this might have been done over email with a sense of seriousness. This seems to be just... Some of this is bouncing things around. There's talk of, Boris Johnson having read things in the FT and saying, guys, tell me about this, tell me more. It's very much kind of talking things around, bouncing it off.
And yet, isn't this the big defence of Matt Hancock? That these are WhatsApp messages that are to the exclusion of all of the perhaps more formal emails, minuted meetings, all the rest of it, that we're not seeing at the moment. We're just seeing sort of perhaps the more trivial stuff, these people talking in a less formal way on WhatsApp. And all these formal discussions are still private and have not been leaked.
Yeah, and it is worth saying that Matt Hancock has come out and said that we need the full COVID inquiry when all this can come out, and he has said that some of these messages have been taken out of context. He strongly refutes some of the suggestions that this shows that he wasn't on top of his brief or that they'd not put this protective ring around care homes that we've seen emerging over the last couple of days. So he very much is saying, don't judge it based on this. You've got to wait for the COVID inquiry when all the evidence can come to light.
And I wonder if now there'll be more political pressure on that inquiry to really get going. They started to collect evidence. Matt Hancock said that he handed over all of this information to that inquiry already, but we haven't seen anything public from it apart from the very preliminary hearings.
Yeah, and they have said that they're going to publish throughout this inquiry. We're not expecting it to take place and then for all to be revealed at the end. There will be as they go through. But this was an inquiry that's been long promised. It started earlier this year, and we haven't really heard anything yet. And all at the same time, it's all coming at a big cost to the taxpayer.